From Washington, this is VOA News. Ukraine president-elect says no talks with terrorists. Nigerian military says missing girls know where they are. I'm Ray Kouguell in Washington. Ukraine's likely president-elect Petro Poroshenko says there will be no talks with terrorists, his word for the armed pro-Russian separatists in the east. Mr. Poroshenko says that peace can be reached through dialogue with those he calls people, and that only weapons can be used when dealing with what he calls killers. He is also willing to open talks with Moscow.
Russia is our biggest neighbor, and because of the fact that stopping the war and bringing the peace to the whole Ukraine and bringing stability on the eastern part of Ukraine, that would be impossible without participation of Russian representatives.
A Ukrainian rebel leader in Donetsk says he's ready to talk with Mr. Poroshenko, but only if the talks concern a prisoner swap and pulling Ukrainian forces out of the east. Meanwhile, it's still unclear who controls the airport in Donetsk after separatists seized parts of that facility Monday, prompting a Ukrainian government airstrike. A top military official in Nigeria says the military knows where more than 200 schoolgirls are being held captive by Islamist militants, but says it will be difficult to use force to rescue them. Chief of Defense Staff Air Marshal Alex Bada said in Abuja Monday that a military operation could be dangerous for the girls. They were kidnapped in mid-April in a secondary school in the remote northern village of Chibok. Militants from the Islamist group Boko Haram claimed responsibility for their kidnappings and said they want to exchange them for members of its group who are in prison. The ongoing Ebola outbreak in West Africa claimed its first deaths in Sierra Leone. The World Health Organization says 5 people have died from the disease in the Sierra Leone town of Kowindu. With the latest deaths, the disease has killed a total of 179 people in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. The UN Refugee Agency says hundreds of refugees in Jordan and Syria are being denied cancer treatment because of lack of money. Lisa Schlein has details.
The UN Refugee Agency says the number of refugees with cancer is overwhelming health systems in Jordan and Syria. A new UNHCR study tracks refugee cancer cases in Jordan and Syria from 2009 to 2012. It says the number of cases in the region is rising because there are more refugees and more people fleeing middle-income countries such as Syria. The UNHCR has set up an exceptional care committee which decides whether to fund expensive treatments. The study finds the most common form of cancer among refugees is breast cancer, accounting for almost 1/4 of all applications in Jordan. Lisa Schlein for VOA News, Geneva.
Egypt will vote on a second and final day today for a new president. Former Army Chief Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who ousted the elected Islamist leader Mohamed Morsi last year, is widely expected to win. The vote is being held under tight security with more than 400,000 police and soldiers deployed across the country. Pope Francis met with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Shimon Peres Monday as he wrapped up his 3-day trip to the Middle East. Mr. Netanyahu told the Pope a separation barrier that exists around the West Bank city of Bethlehem is needed until incitement and terror against Israel ends. Mr. Peres thanked Pope Francis for making efforts to restart the stalled Israeli-Palestinian peace process. President Obama paid tribute to America's war dead Monday as the United States marked the annual Memorial Day holiday. VOA's Michael Bowman has more.
Hours after completing a whirlwind trip to visit U.S. troops in Afghanistan, President Barack Obama laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Arlington National Cemetery just across the Potomac River from Washington.
Everything that we hold precious in this country was made possible by Americans who gave their all. And because of them, our nation is stronger, safer, and will always remain a shining beacon of freedom for the rest of the world.
Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
The Memorial Holiday observance included parades and special events in cities and towns across the United States. I'm Ray Kouguell in Washington.
That's the latest world news from VOA.